Hello there. Today I will be ranking all of our players from who I think is most likely to win, to least likely, in a tier list. Sorry everyone for getting this video out late, it's been a busy week with Thanksgiving, but better late than never. The tier list will be based on how their game is looking going into next week, their potential long-term prospects, and how I think the edit is factoring into their chances to win or go far. This ranking is my own personal opinion, and tiers are not ordered in any particular order. This week Shan was voted out in a blind side by Ricard. If you've seen any of my past tier lists, you would know that Shan has been on the very top of the list for the entire season. I was very confident she was going at least to the final tribal council, and most likely winning, so seeing her go home this week was a big shock for me. Unfortunately for Shan, her threat level in the game was a little too high, as she was the one this season who had made the most moves thus far. With a timely immunity from Ricard, Shan became a good option for everyone else left in the game. I was a big fan of Shan, so I'm sad to see her go, so I will look forward to seeing her return if applicable in the future. D tier this week is for players who I see have very little chance of winning, and will likely leave the very game soon. First in the D tier this week is Xander, who remains in the D tier from last week. At this point, Xander is on the bottom of the tribe and has no social capital in the game to try and make a move with. At Tribal Council this week, Xander told us that nobody has been talking to him or letting him in on any plans, which means that nobody is considering Xander close in the game. This was a quieter episode from Xander, so it is hard to see how his game has progressed, but from what we can see it isn't looking good. His one saving grace is that he does have an idol, but I don't see Xander staying in the game very long regardless, let alone making it to the end and winning. Xander needs to either win immunity challenges, or hope that the majority alliance takes each other out like this week again. C tier this week is for players who I either see very little chance of winning the game, or could leave very soon. First in the C tier this week is Heather, who remains in the C tier from the previous week. This was a quiet episode from Heather, so it's hard to see how much she did this week in the game, but we can assume it wasn't much. Heather was not looked at as a potential target this week, instead sliding under the radar in favor of bigger threats left in the game. This is Heather's strength but also weakness in the game. She can make it far on her low threat level, but I think she will have no chance to win should she get to the end, which is why she ultimately lands in the C tier. B tier this week is for players who I think have a good chance to win, but have some flaws in their game that are holding them back. First in the B tier this week is Liana, who remains in the B tier from last week. This was not a very good episode for Liana, as her closest ally ended up leaving, and Liana herself was blindsided during the vote. However, the reason why I don't have Liana dropping in tiers is because I don't think she's in any immediate danger of going home, as there are larger perceived threats in the game still to go after. She still has allies left in the game, and I think she has a high chance to make it to the end. However, one problem for Liana is how she will be perceived by the jury. If the jury thinks that Liana relied too much on Shan to play the game, then she could have a hard time winning, but if she can make her own moves in the coming weeks, I think she has a solid shot of winning. Next in the B tier this week is Ricard, who drops from the A tier from last week. Ricard made a huge move this week in blindsiding Shan, who was the biggest player in the game up until this point. However, I don't think this was actually that great of a move for Ricard. Ricard had a close ally in Shan who also was a massive threat in the game. Ricard himself is a massive threat, so keeping other big players around can help shield him, and allow him to make it farther in the game. I can see many players targeting Ricard from this point on, so he could have a very difficult time making it to the end. However, if Ricard does make it to the end at this point, I think he can beat anyone left, which is why he isn't lower on the tier list. Our third B tier this week is Erika, who rises from the C tier from last week. Erika remains on the outs of the tribe once again this week, and that is most likely to stay the same in the coming weeks. 1+ to Erika's game, however, is the fact that the majority alliance is starting to turn on itself, overlooking Erika as a target. If she can make it a couple more votes, I can see Erika turning the game on its head, and emerging as a frontrunner to win. Erika still must get through the short-term game, but if she can make it to the end I think she can beat anyone. A tier this week is for players who aren't looking like they will go home soon, and have solid chances to win the game. First in the A tier this week is Deshaun, who rises from the A tier from last week. Deshaun is still in the majority alliance on the tribe, and still has allies to work with. Unfortunately for Deshaun, I could see him being a target in coming tribals based on his willingness to turn on to Ricard, but I think Deshaun could very easily come out on top in this scenario. With Shan gone, that is a big obstacle out of the way for Deshaun, so I could see an easy scenario for Deshaun to coast to the end on the top of the tribe, and in front of the jury. I think he has a good chance to win. S tier this week is for players who are in great positions, aren't likely to leave anytime soon, and also have a great chance to win. Our sole S tier player this week is Danny, who rises from the A tier from last week and finds himself in the S tier for the first time. Danny is a quieter player this season, but that is to his benefit, as he is on top of the tribe with his allies, and is still not being brought up as a threat. I could see other players such as Xander, Erika, Ricard and Deshawn all being looked at as targets to go home over Danny, which puts him at a great position in the game. Danny could find himself with an easy path to the end with some weaker players such as Heather, where I could easily see him picking up votes to win. I do wish, however, that we saw more of Danny in the episodes so we could have a better understanding of his game. There is my current tier list of who I think is most likely to win and make it far. Keep in mind that these are just my opinions, and I am unspoiled this season, and this is very subject to change. We will see if anyone else will be able to rise to the S tier, and I am interested to see how the rest of the season will shake out. Thanks for watching. This has been Gold Card.